You.
It was good to see a Michigander.
Go blue.
Uh,
Hey, listen, I would love to ask you about your personal experience with AVs. How much have you ridden in them?
I've done a fair amount of riding, but probably the one of the best experiences, interesting experience, was actually with my wife in San Francisco. We were out there with the folks from Cruise when they were operating there, and had a chance as they were doing commercial apps. You could call them up on the phone, and they would the car would come. It was 11 o'clock at night or so. And my wife, who's actually in the back here, is somewhat of a technology skeptic when it comes to AVs. So I'm sure she's smiling right now when I say that. So she's like, I don't know if I like this AV stuff. You know, I'll try it out, obviously. So she's a good sport. But we went for the ride, and no driver. We're just sitting in the back seat, and it did well. We navigated with pedestrians. It followed all the rules. It was really a pretty smooth ride. I thought, well, that's great. So we went back and stopped and get out of the car. And then I said, well, let's watch it as it goes off to get its next customer that is calling it. And it was night. It's nighttime in the road. So there's cars parked on the side. We get out. And then the AV pulls out and starts driving to get to the next stop. And somebody walks out between two cars, the pedestrian walks right out into the street, and the car just instantly slams on the brakes.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy in the street looks at it, and there's like nobody in the car that just slammed on the brakes, a little startled, and walks off. But as I saw that, I'm like, I don't know if a human would have reacted that quickly. I mean, it was instantaneous, and those are the kinds of classic pedestrian accidents you have where someone's walking between cars and at night, dark, but it performed flawlessly.
Yeah.
And he walked off, and it drove off, and I'm like, that's why these things are so important when it comes to safety, to see that in operation.
And yet,
Oh, yet.
in Texas, a child ran out from between double parked cars in a school zone, and a Waymo hit the child. The Waymo did brake and hit the child at a very slow speed, but still made contact. Waymo held that up as proof that the robotaxi can respond faster than a human, because they have a lot of data that they study all the time to
Right.
look at human response times. And they said, they hit the child at 6 miles an hour or 8, something like that. A human would have hit at 14. My wonder is, would a human be even going 17 or 14 miles per hour through a school zone at drop-off time when there is, double parked cars and stuff? The point is that the robotaxi doesn't have the common sense that humans do.
Yeah.
I don't know what we could do about that. Have you thought about that as you think about legislation?
Well, I do. I'll just push back a little bit. I know a lot of humans that don't have common sense. Yeah, we may have run into some of those in our life that they don't have common sense. So I do think there are drivers that do go too fast in school zones.
Yes.
And are simply not paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to weigh all of that as well. It's never going to be flawless. In fact, a number of the studies that have really looked at the millions of miles that have been traveled show there's a significant increase in safety. It's never 100%. You're never going to get to 100%. But when you think about the fact that 95% of all accidents are the result of human error, oftentimes not using common sense, and I see it all the time, not just in the car. I'm an avid motorcyclist, and trust me, cars do really stupid things that put motorcyclists at risk, and you always got to be concerned about what that person's doing and try to think ahead, situational awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So the evidence is there. It's not 100%, but if we can increase it significantly, it's literally going to save lives and more so save from serious injuries that occur at a massive rate here in this country.
Well, I know you've been working on AV legislation for a long time. Nothing has passed yet on the federal level, and maybe you could talk about that. But I'm very curious about how you balance the benefits of AVs when you've got 40,000 people
Yeah.
a year dying, with the risks that come from AVs. As you process how you're going to try to put legislation through, what's your equation?
Yeah, and first that's a starting equation, which you just mentioned. The fact that we have 40,000 deaths, over 100 people die on our highways every day. Today, 100 people are going to die. Tomorrow, another 100 people. And you think about any kind of activity that we just take that for granted. Oh, 100 people are going to die today. That's just part of it. And the serious injuries are well in excess of 100, with sometimes very debilitating kinds of injuries. So this is, to me, it's a moral imperative that we actually figure this out and bring this safety to the roads. But understanding it's not a clear path, the technology evolves. There's going to be accidents that are going to occur. You mentioned the accident with the young child, which we never want to see. We try to avoid those. And so we want to make sure as we're developing this and putting these on the roads that boxes are being checked to make sure they're as safe as possible. And quite frankly, all the auto folks, the folks who are building these vehicles, understand that's critically important too. And for the big reason, something that I focus on a lot, is that one of our challenges to have more self-driving cars and trucks on the road is you got to build acceptance from the public that these things are actually safe. And the thing about an accident, when an accident occurs, one of those 100 deaths, I don't know if we'll probably won't see anything in the news that 100 people died. But I guarantee you, if a self-driving car nicks a person and they get pushed aside, that's going to be like all over the newspapers. And so people are thinking, oh, that's what's happening. But it's really a small, tiny, tiny percentage. Still significant. I'm not dismissing it at all. We got to try to get it, but you've got to try to eliminate that so you can also build the kind of trust that the public needs, but understand it's not going to be a smooth path. And my goal is to, as far as balancing it, is how do we bring this technology forward to get it to the point where everybody feels secure with it as quickly as possible, however, because every day we save and get that technology on the road, maybe not 100 lives you'll save, but say we save 75 lives. That's a big deal. Every day quicker that it's developed, it's another 75 people that are going to be alive. Mm-hmm. So we do want to act expeditiously, but also understand that it's important to have safety to build the kind of trust and to save lives, but also to build trust that people will get in these vehicles and win over the tech skeptics like somebody close to me.
So, as you try to prepare legislation, it's been going on for 10 years. We don't
Yeah.
have a law yet. So, what are the must-haves in any law that you would pass?
Well, we got to address the issues we just talked about. So we've got to do that. We've got to make sure that the vehicles that are getting on the road are meeting certain standards, that they're safe, especially at scale as you're putting them out.
With no steering wheels, are we going to have laws about that?
Well, eventually, we will, and that's what we have to change. That's part of what slows things down too. Is the Motor Vehicle Code requires a steering wheel when there will be steering wheels, and requires a brake pedal. And I think both those requirements are really good right now. By the way, just for the record, steering wheel and brake pedals are important when drivers are in them, but they are going to be gone. So, yeah, but you got to start testing those out there and get them out on the road. But there are other concerns that I have that I think we need to think about up front too, in which we're spending time, is that they are going to be disruptive. They're going to be disruptive in the labor market. How is this going to impact folks? I work a lot with my friends in the unions who are very concerned about that, and I understand that, and we should be thinking about that. In the past, we always put new technology out very quickly, and then we'll figure out, well, what happens, and then there's job displacements and issues with it. We have a chance now, I think, to try to do both and think that through as to how do we make sure that transition is done in a way that helps make sure employment's not impacted significantly. Understanding there'll be changes, and I know if you look throughout history, people always worry a little about technology. That means jobs are going to be gone. We know that they're usually replaced by other jobs, but it takes time. And in the long run, as John Maynard Keynes said, in the long run, we're all dead. So it's not just about long run. It's also what can we do in the short term as well to make sure that people have a path. And that's part of getting public acceptance too, to know that not only are they safe, but they're not going to lose their job, that they're actually hopefully going to get an even better job that pays more. But what is that path? We're not going to solve all that. That's a big issue. We're not going to solve it all before this technology is out. But we better make some really concrete moves to think that through beforehand. And when we do that, and we have a path, it also will accelerate our ability to continue to move the technology forward, I believe.
What about cybersecurity? Because you're on a number of committees related to national security
Yeah.
and cybersecurity. It affects autonomous vehicles too. Talk a little bit about what we should be worried about and what can be done about it.
Yeah, it is, and I've said this. A cyber attack in your normal life is usually not catastrophic. It can be really disappointing. If you have a cyber attack on your bank account, that's really bad. But if you have a cyber attack at your car and you drive into a wall, that's existential. So we've got to be even more focused on that. But the same kind of cybersecurity protocols we use in the financial sector and others have to be used in cars too, and realize that those automobiles are definitely targets for that. But all the things we're working on in the cyber field now apply equally to what's happening in an automobile. It just becomes even more critical that we have those kinds of things developed into the systems.
Hmm. Now, you represent Michigan, of course, home to three of the biggest automakers in the world. They've had their share of
Right,
difficulties coping with all the issues that are out
right,
there, from
right.
tariffs and regulations and stuff. But as autonomy comes through, do you envision those companies uh, basically making commodity robo taxis and Silicon Valley technology put into them? Or do you expect the brands to just keep, having meaning in the auto industry and American life? Are they just going to be commodities?
No, I think the brands will still be there. But and let me back up. I mean, you had said some of the must-haves that I see. I mean, one of the must-haves is we still have a U.S. auto industry
Yeah.
that we have to have. And this is why it is important for us to really be focused on AVs, understanding that the competition, global competition, is extensive. The Chinese, for example, are investing massive amounts of money in this technology because they understand it represents the future of the auto industry. And if we cede that to them, we will lose our industry. Then that'll impact the jobs that I mentioned, all of that. So we've got to make sure we have U.S. platforms are critically important to me. And they do a good job. Just a quick story. Towards that 10 years ago, when I first really started to dive into this, I was out in California with one of the major tech companies was working on AVs. I won't mention them, but they said, we thought we're making these AV systems. We got these incredible ways to pilot cars through this environment. And then we thought, we're doing it. Maybe we should just build the car too. But then we went to Detroit and we went to an auto factory. Wow, that's really a complicated business. It's like, yeah, it is. It's a lot different. A crash on a computer is a lot different than a crash in a car, and you got to make sure that that system works. So I think there's understanding that auto companies aren't going to build the software. That's a complicated business too. And the autos, so how do they come together to be able to work? But that's why I would hope all of our tech companies are using U.S. platforms as they're developing that. It's critical for this country's national security, and that includes our economic security, which is hand in glove with national security.
Hmm. Waymo, as you probably know, their next generation robotaxi is actually built on a Chinese vehicle that they import. And then in Phoenix, they are basically upfitting it using Magna, a company that is a gigantic supplier and manufacturer
Mhm.
in the auto industry. Is that kind of model okay with you?
No,
Okay.
I've expressed it to them.
Okay. All
I
right.
haven't been bashful about that, and they've acknowledged that it makes sense. So we'll see what happens going forward. But
Hmm.
you got to have, and those are made back to my labor issues, all that. We still need to make it. The one thing that I don't believe you can have a great country if you don't actually make things. And making things is not just the computer software and the computer hardware. It's automobiles and all the things that go into manufacturing that. And when you think about what the auto industry has done in the past, I heard a previous panels talk about it. The auto industry really created the American middle class. This is a story of Michigan back in the early 1900s and Henry Ford, and where they paid a living wage. And as a result of the auto industry, which touches so much about the manufacturing ecosystem, that it lifted the whole economy. And I believe the auto industry can be at the forefront of the next generation of economic growth. And I want that to happen in the United States. If we cede that to another country, particularly a country that has a system very different than ours, that spells trouble for the things that we hold dear here in the United States.
Okay. Before we go, I just have to acknowledge you are retiring from the Senate this year?
I'm not running for re-election. I'm not retiring.
Okay. All right. All right. I'm
For
sorry.
the
You're,
record,
you're
yeah,
not
for the
running
record.
for re-election. Thank you for your service, by the way.
Thank you.
There are 3 Democrats vying to replace you. Have you endorsed any one of them?
No, I have not.
Okay.
So we have 3 excellent candidates there. I talked to all 3 of them, and whoever's the winner will be the next senator from Michigan. But we have to get through the primary first.
Okay. All right. Any predictions on who will replace Governor Whitmer in Michigan?
It will be the Democratic. We have a primary there too.
Yes,
So it'll
yes.
be the Democratic nominee.
All right.
We'll
I
go.
sense a theme here.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Important. And I believe that primaries they can be really healthy, bring people together, build your organization. You're battle tested in a primary before the real show starts, so it's all good.
Okay. We like to end on one fun thing. You mentioned that you are an avid motorcyclist. Tell us what you're going to do after you leave the Senate. Where are you going first?
Well, there'll be a lot of places to go. In fact, I'm going to have every year. I have a big motorcycle ride that I do, official Senate business, that I ride all around Michigan, and we do events all across the state. But I ride my motorcycle, and I have a group of guest riders that come and go, but anywhere from 30 to 40 bikes, and we ride into town and do a press event and ride off into the sunset. And
What do you ride?
I have 2 Harley Davidsons. I have a Dyna Super Glide, and then I have the new Harley Pan America, which is an amazing motorcycle, by the way. And just for the record here, I actually traded in my BMW GS for the Harley Davidson.
Okay.
And it's every bit as good, if not better. And
American made, right?
And American made, yeah. So how's that? Yeah, it's really
All right. I want to tell everyone in the audience, if you are driving around, please give some room to the senator on his motorcycle. All right. That's all we have now, the time we have. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.